everyone, I know I'm wearing a full face of makeup here, but I thought that I would do a foundation or base. I did powder, contour and highlight routine for you guys, but I thought that I'd do the full face makeup to make it make more sense. I don't know, I look kind of silly without eyebrows, but anyway, I will just get straight into this video. It's going to be a little bit chatty. Well, yeah, I'll just get straight into it. Please don't forget to subscribe. I'll pop a button right here, and yeah. So first I go in with the L'Oreal Paris mattifying base. I've already moisturised and exfoliated my skin, and I use the Liz Earle Cleanse Hot Cloth Polish cleansing thing already in the shower. So I just thought I'd let you know that that's like a really important part of getting a flawless base, because if your skin's not prepped or ready for your makeup to go on, then what's the point, right? So I really don't take too much of this. I generally just put it in like the T-zone and pull it out like more along here. But I also have this weird patch here that doesn't really like taking makeup without primer, so I definitely always get that bit. I also like to get underneath my eyes as well quite a lot, because that's the part where you put your concealer and you really want it to be able to stick. Now that that base is on, I actually like to leave it for a while. The reason I do this is because I like my skin to kind of like get used to it, and for it to, you know, because this is quite a silicone-y, like almost slippery base for a primer, and I don't want to put my makeup on top because it'll just slip and slide everywhere. So I'll usually go and brush my teeth at this point, or put the kettle on, or just do something, like anything, just to leave this to soak in for about 5 minutes. Now for my foundation, I actually like to use the Rimmel Lasting Finish 25 Hour Comfort Serum Foundation, and I am in shade 201 Classic Beige. They sadly don't have too much of a shade range. I think they have about 7 shades, but I actually find that this is quite close to my skin tone. It's just a tad bit lighter, but I'm kind of pasty on the rest of my body anyway, so I don't really mind having it a bit lighter, as I always like to bronze it up anyway. I did mention this, actually I mentioned quite a few of the products that I'm using today in a previous haul video, which I'll leave up here or here, wherever it is, just the other day, so go and check that out. And I've also got a blog post which I'll leave down below, sending you links to where to find everything. I'll probably leave the links down below anyway. I'm also using the Morphe M439 brush. This is a really thick, big brush, and it kind of fits like the whole of my face, if that makes sense. It's so big. So I just pump this once on my hand. I usually use more than one pump, but I like to kind of try my best to use one and then use a bit more if I have to. I just like to buff this into the skin, starting from the middle of one side. The reason I'm using this foundation is simply because it just leaves such a pretty finish. I have combination skin, so it's kind of half oily like here and here, and then dry everywhere else, and I just feel like this gives me such a good finish, but it also lasts for so much longer for like the oilier parts of my skin. It also smells like sunscreen. For those of you who have this foundation, you'll know. I think it's just the serum that's in it that helps it adhere to the skin and helps your skin in general, but it literally smells like sunscreen. And that's my foundation finished. I then go in with the Naked Skin Weightless Complete Coverage Concealer, which is an absolute perfect concealer. I have mine in shade Light Warm. There's some way fairer than this, and there's some a lot darker, and they've recently come out with 3 new darker shades as well. I just like to put this underneath my eyes to highlight them and brighten them up and make me look a bit more awake. I like to put this on a little bit of my forehead, down my nose, a bit above my lips, and on my chin as well. And I buff and blend this in with a damp beauty blender. This is the nude one, which I love because it doesn't look dirty. And I literally just pat this in, and it'll take you a while, but it leaves such a pretty finish, and it doesn't leave any brush streak marks or anything. The good thing about the Beauty Blender is it also has this pointy side for this bit, which takes me a lot longer to try and get in that little crevice, but it blends out so much prettier than any brush that I've ever really used. You also want to make sure that you're blending this right up to your hairline. You can always go over it with a bit of bronzer if you like that around here or anything, but you don't want to have it stop, if that makes any sense. It will look really weird. I just think it looks so glowy and like awake. So as I mentioned before, I also like to put a little bit on my forehead, all the way down my nose, basically in every single point of the centre of my face. And blend. Then to set the concealer that I've just put down, I like to use the Laura Mercier Translucent Setting Powder. It's a loose powder, so be warned for those of you who aren't aware. If you're not good with loose powders and you're a mess, a bit like myself, then please be careful. I find that this works best with a damp beauty blender, and I kind of just like to bake it. For those of you who don't know what that means, it means putting on an excess of product and leaving it there for a while, and it kind of just soaks in. So don't be afraid if you can kind of see the powder on your skin, because you can always just brush it off with a brush anyway. Just like that. And I like to do this everywhere where I've put the concealer. I don't really feel the need to set my foundation too much because it generally just sits anyway, but this is just so that my concealer doesn't form into my fine lines like my smile lines, which I hate, and yeah, it just keeps it on for a lot longer. So as I mentioned before, dusting this off with a brush, I use the SS032 Pointed Blender brush. This is by Crown brushes. The reason I use this is because I actually used to use this as like to set my under eyes, and it just perfectly fits in this place. I know I'm only dusting it off, but I don't want to use too harsh of a brush, and this is perfectly tapered and fluffy enough to just wipe it off, if that makes any sense. So I just dust off the bits that you can see and like, yeah, clear it up, if that makes any sense. The thing I really like about the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder is that it doesn't take from your foundation. So if you have a matte foundation and you put this down on top of concealer, it doesn't, like, if you get it anywhere, it doesn't take from the foundation or the concealer. It just literally sets it. It doesn't change the formula, it doesn't make it more matte or more dewy or anything. It literally sets exactly how you want it to. And I then go in with the Kat Von D Shade and Light contouring palette. I usually go in with a mixture of the first two lighter shades. One because, well, the first one is a perfect contour shade, and the second one I find is a perfect bronzer shade. So I kind of like to mix them together because they're both not too brown and not too grey. I'm using the Real Techniques contour brush, which is a great brush for contouring. And I find that it's better to just go in with a really little bit of product rather than too much, and work it in circles, in really, really small circles into your skin, rather than go in with a harsh line and try and blend it out because you don't know where you're going to blend it to if there's too much product. I also like to put a little bit of this on the top of my temples and to kind of cut off my cheekbone to make it just look a bit more sharp, if that makes any sense. And a little bit in the hairline. I don't really need too much of this, but for those of you who have a bit bigger of a forehead that you don't want, if that makes any sense, it's good to put contour at the top here because it kind of shortens the length of your forehead. And I also like to put just a little bit down my jawline. I focus the majority of this on the bottom of the jawline, but I like to bring it up just a tiny bit so that it's actually on my face, if that makes sense. And then for highlight, we're obviously going to use the Merry Luminizer by the Balm. This is literally my favourite highlight. I haven't found anything I like more than it, and I will just continue to use it. And then I'm using the Zoeva 105 highlight brush from the Bamboo section. collection, that's the word I meant. I just think that this brush is great, and it's really great for like buffing it out rather than having too much on your face. So I just dab this a tiny bit in there and tap off the extra or excess both product, and I put this on my cheekbone where I've already highlighted with a concealer. I literally just go backwards and forwards because this diffuses it perfectly. It means that you haven't got like an unnecessary amount of highlight on. I also like to do this just above the arch of my brow and pull it up, if that makes any sense, but not too much, like otherwise it'll look weird. And then on my cupid's bow, which is basically the bit where your lip joins your skin, I'm just going to finish my makeup so that you can see the completed look, because I feel like this doesn't do it enough justice, and I'll be back. And I'm back! So yeah, this is the finished look. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that it helped some of you out there who didn't know what to do with their base routine. And if you have any pointers on anything, then please let me know in the comments, or any suggestions for any future videos, then let me know down below. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will definitely see you in my next video, which will be soon. Don't worry. Bye!